Greetings, audiophiles and Mass Effect fans. Welcome to my reading of my fanfiction, After the Fall. This is a Mass Effect fanfiction, and as such, most of the characters and the universe belong to BioWare/EA Games. No copyright infringement is intended. However, the scenario and occurrences within this fanfiction are my intellectual property, so if you decide you want to share this with someone, credit me. Please. Part 19. Love. Shepard sighed, trying to focus. She'd been staring at the same datapad for several minutes. She sat at her desk in her quarters. Garrus was once again in the main battery, calibrating the ship's weapons to perfection. The quarians were boarding some of the geth ships, readying themselves to grapple the Reaper corpses and drag them into the sun. Shepard felt uneasy about the task, but most of her tension came from the fact that she could have little to do with the mission. She was no pilot, let alone one that could handle a geth ship. She felt useless and a bit lonely. What was worse, her mind was buzzing. She knew that feeling all too well, that sinking dread that came with her PTSD. Usually it didn't manifest when she was alone, but her thoughts were too active. Lacking a task to focus upon, they wandered, and she was sent spiraling through her memories best left unrecalled. Her fingers twitched around the pen she was holding as her muscles remembered holding Thane's hand as he died before her eyes. She found herself checking her fingers for blood. Her memories had always been vivid, like waking dreams. She tried again to focus her eyes on the datapad, information about quarian ship movements. Her befuddled brain refused to make sense of them. She stood up, forcing herself to do jumping jacks. Getting her heart rate up was something that stopped her from hyperventilating. Sometimes. She heaved another restless sigh and strode into the bathroom, opening the medicine cabinet. She pulled out a bottle of pills. It stood beside Garrus's own medications. She popped the child-proof top and downed a capsule, staring at herself in the mirror. Tough, scarred face. Had it ever been pretty? If someone was feeling generous, she might have been called a handsome woman. But pretty or beautiful? Not likely. Her face was too long, her jaw too pronounced, her nose too proud, her forehead too high. She rubbed a long-fingered hand over her sharp cheekbone, feeling the old cuts there, like her memories barely healed. She reached up and replaced the pill bottle in its spot when something caught her eye. She brought her hand back, cradling the plastic bottle as though it was suddenly precious. The name of the prescribing doctor was scrawled neatly on the label. It hadn't been necessary for him to sign the bottle, but he had insisted they follow procedure. Shepard's teeth found the inside of her cheek as a lonesome tear trailed down the outside. "Oh, Morden," she whispered. She took the pill bottle back into the other room, setting it on her desk. Then she called up all the information on her old friend that she could find from the Shadowbroker database. Her eyes scanned over his scientific accomplishments and his acting credentials. She tried to imagine him on stage, but it was hard to see anything but his determined face as he prepared to ride the elevator to certain death. Why hadn't he let her go? She would have, in a heartbeat, the rest of the galaxy be damned. There were hundreds of moments that Shepard longed to get back, to live again, and this time she would save those she had lost, would somehow rescue Ashley as well as Kaidan, would convince Legion to find another way to save his people, would get a clean shot on Kai Lang before he stabbed Thane. One moment stood out. She would have stopped him. She could have physically forced him to stay, to find another way. Instead, she had allowed her dear friend to go to his doom, alone. Her throat was tight with uncried tears. Silent shuddering overtook her as she thought of him. Certainly the Solarian had not been with her as long as some of her crew, but she and he had formed a deep bond. He had been another father to her. For a woman who had no idea who her biological parents were, Shepard felt that she had many adoptive ones. Another tear escaped her eye. Both of her fathers were gone, Anderson and Morden, both lost souls to the damn war. "You're wallowing." Shepard knew his voice was in her mind, trapped in her too vivid memory, but she still lifted her head. "I know, Anderson. I can't help it." She exhaled the words as though setting down a great weight. "Yes, you can. You're Commander Shepard. You don't have time to wallow. You have a galaxy to save." "As it so happens, I do have time to wallow. My crew is taking care of themselves, and the current situation doesn't need me." Imagined Anderson didn't say anything else, so Shepard went back to flipping through Morden's file. "Listen to Soundbite," an option prompted her. How'd she missed this before? She wasn't sure if she wanted to press the button, to hear his voice again, but then she knew she needed to. She tapped the listen option with her finger, then sat back, hands cupped over her elbows. Soon she was laughing aloud. There were several sound bites of Morden's acting career, including his time with an educational children's show about, what else, science. This time the tear in her eye was a mirthful one as she listened to his antics. Finally he seemed finished, and she was about to turn off the recording when his familiar singing voice gently reached her ears.
Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Maybe next time. Until then, we'll stick to patter songs.
Then his voice was gone. Shepard thought of her crew, not those she had lost, but those who were still with her. What if they were all dead tomorrow, just dear memories like Morden? Her hands closed into fists, her fingernails digging into her palms. She had to do something with herself. She had to reassure her troubled mind that it wasn't over yet, and there could still be a future. Tally! She tapped the comm button before she realized she was reaching for it. Shepard? The quarian's voice answered. Shepard almost hung up. She felt guilty having even considered what she was thinking of. At a time like this, when the fate of the Sol System and the galaxy hung by a spider thread. I can hear you breathing, Shepard. What's wrong? Tally persisted. Tally, I know you're busy organizing your people, but could you... The young quarian must have recognized the tone in Shepard's voice. I'll be there in 10 minutes, tops, she said. Don't feel like you need to hurry. This is just a silly idea I have. Sometimes your silly ideas save the galaxy, the engineer replied. And don't worry, the other admirals are coordinating as well. I'm not as crucial as you might think. Shepard heard the channel disconnect. She pivoted her chair to face the door, waiting for her friend to arrive. What's this about? Joker asked. He was the last one to gather in the cargo bay. He stopped, taking in the crew. Most of them had crammed themselves in, eager expressions on their faces. The pilot found Shepard and raised his eyebrows. She was standing at one end of the room, fully armored in red and black. Garrus and Tali stood at the other end of the room, also decked out in battle gear. Shepard watched her friend's face as it seemed to slowly dawn on him what was going on. He shot her one more questioning glance, and when she nodded in response, a huge smile spread over his face. She hadn't seen him smile like that in almost 2 years. He rushed to take his spot with her team, who were standing in a place of honor near Tali and Garrus. Glyph hovered above the crowd, playing gentle piano music of Liara's choosing. Shepard hesitated. Her mind struggled for a moment to picture her father standing beside her, the biological father she had never known. Instead, she could only imagine the old soldier. Anderson smiled at her in her mind's eye. Then, instinctively, she reached out her hands to either side of herself, and was rewarded by the touch of her crew. She began to walk, hands still extended, fingers brushing those of her people as she went, as though running her hands through long grass. When she reached her team, they each clasped her hand, then let go, as if guiding her onwards toward Garrus. Caden on her right and Liara on her left were the last to let her go. Her hands closed around Garrus's. The Turian looked handsome as ever in his blue and silver armor, polished to a shine. His sniper rifle was strapped to his back. She gazed up into his face. Not the face she had ever imagined herself loving, yet the only one she ever could. She glanced at Tali and gave her a nod. Thank you all for gathering here in this time of great distress and fear to celebrate something victorious. Something beautiful. Love. Whatever the Reapers may take from us, they can never take this. They will never understand its unifying strength. The Reapers believe that the species of this galaxy can never be united, that the Quarians will never ally with the Geth, that the Krogan and the Solarian cannot be friends, that a human could never marry a Turian. Commander Shepard and Garrus Vicarian asked that you all be here to witness their official bonding. Shepard? The Quarian dipped her head towards her friend. Shepard had to clear her throat several times to stop the emotion from escaping instead of her words. Garrus Vicarian, there isn't anyone in the galaxy who sees me the way you do. Down to my soul. We're not a conventional couple. We save the galaxy together on a semi-regular basis. I think we were meant to be together. The moment I realized that I might be falling in love with you was the day you told me that there wasn't anyone in the galaxy you respected more than me. That meant more to me than any profession of undying adoration. I can't imagine my life without you. I can't imagine facing death without you. You're always mine, Vicarian." She choked up. He was smiling tenderly at her. His eyes sparkled with emotion. Someone in the crew, Trainer, blew her nose loudly. Garrus took a shaky breath. "Lorelei, Shepard. When I first met you, I never would have imagined us together either. I thought my life was all planned out. I'd do a few great deeds, maybe save the galaxy once or twice, then fall in love with a pretty Turian who would never understand what I'd been through. But then you came along, and you understood everything. We walked side by side into the maw of hell, and it didn't matter if we got out. Only that we walked together. I realized that I could never be happy with anyone else. I guess I'm a one-human kind of Turian, Shepard." Tally held out a red ribbon, draping it over Shepard and Garrus's linked hands. Gently she twined the ribbon around their hands, binding them together. When she had finished, she stepped back, and Shepard could tell that she was beaming, even with the helmet in the way. "By the power vested in me by the Quarian flotilla and my dearest friend, Commander Shepard, I now pronounce you mated for life." Tally didn't have to encourage them to kiss. They raised their hands, still bound in the red ribbon, to each other's faces as their lips met. The crew exploded with applause. The kiss lasted several moments as Shepard's mind spun with a joy she could barely recall herself feeling only a few times in her life. As her lips finally parted from those of her mate, her crew stormed forward, and she was glad she was wearing her armor, because Grunt caught her in a massive hug. Moments later, Rex, who had flown back to the Normandy in a shuttle with Javik, as soon as they had got wind of the special occasion about to take place, was next to attempt to crush her ribs. As Shepard hugged and was congratulated, she barely took her eyes from her mate. Whatever happened to her, or the galaxy, this was all she needed, this one memory to defeat all the Dark Ones. She smiled. Let the Reapers come. She felt like she could take them all out by hand.